Today we're making a granite topped kitchen cart. We're starting off with a remnant piece of granite and we're cutting it down to the size we want. Then we're going to break out some metal and the welding tools and make ourselves a nice metal cart for this granite to sit on. And ultimately we end up with a beautiful little kitchen cart to add additional counter space and functionality to our kitchen. Alright, next up we've got some 1-inch square tubing with 11 gauge wall. I'm going to use this to cut some of this up. To cut up the metal, I've got my abrasive chop saw here. Alright, and then I'm going to use a wire brush here to clean up the ends here to get the mill scale, that dark gray color off of here. Get that off so I have nice shiny metal underneath there, and that will prep it for welding. Here are my pieces of tube starting to come together and make out my frame for my piece of granite. Alright, now that we've got our tubes cut up, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing aligned on my welding table here. I've got some 3/32 TIG filler rod. I'm going to go ahead and tack this thing up on the outside corner first. Now that everything is all tacked up, I'm going to loosen this thing up and we should have a fairly straight frame at this point. I'm going to move this down off the end of the table a little bit so I can get to these outside edges. I'm going to weld those up. Alright, we've got our frame fully welded up here. So you can see in the inside corner there, we've got that one fully welded up. That's what we just did. Everything is all set on this frame now. Next, I've got a couple pieces of flat bar on the ground here. I've got 1-inch and 3-inch wide flat bar. I'm going to cut this out next. Alright, so now we've got our two piles of cut out flat bar. We've got our 3-inch, we've got our 1-inch. These are going to be joined together, just like I've got up here. Got this one sort of prepped out a little bit already. I've got this space out, so these just the inside edges are touching, so I've got a nice little sort of L here that I can fill this gap, this L gap, with filler metal. Oh yeah, that's brass, baby. Alright, so now I've got this tacked up in like 4 spots, so everything should be aligned where I want it, and now I'm going to go ahead and start welding this sucker up. So we've got this bead here finished. That is like a 3-foot bead of brazing, TIG brazing, which is this beautiful stuff right here. Look at that. That is just lovely. It just goes on and on and on and on. Oh yeah, baby. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice. So I got 4 of these guys. There's one here and we've got 3 more back up there. Those are going to be our legs for our table, for our cart. Now I've got a couple pieces like this. This is 8-inch wide flat bar. I'm going to cut some stuff out on this on the plasma cutter. Alright, we're prepped and ready to do some welding this morning. Alright, now we've got 3 little 1-inch tack welds on this side, on either side here. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and fully weld the other side. All right, so here we are. These are fully welded up now on this side. This is where we're at. This is my next step here. So I need to measure this out, cut this, and then drill some holes in there and pour some wheels to go on. All right, now we've got these beautiful steel wheels. The wheel here itself is all metal, drilled on my piece of metal we just cut out, and get this thing a place to live. And I'm thinking about putting this thing basically right in the middle. All right, now I've got my holes marked here, and I want to center punch those guys with my center punch. I've got a stepped drill bit here. I just like these, they're very convenient, and they work quite well. Inch. All right, so now we've got our holes cut out. We've got our caster here. This is a 1/2 inch thread, the diameter of this guy on the caster. And I've cut this just a little bit beyond that, so we have a little bit of room to play in there. This nut here, I have soaked this in vinegar to clean off all the zinc and everything from it, so now I can weld it without creating toxic fumes. And this guy is going to get welded right on top like that. And then we'll weld. The next step is to weld it on to the bottom here. Alright, so I've got tacks on this thing every few inches, and that is to minimize warping, and also will be to give me spacing. When I do my little beads, I'll do in between the tacks, and then I'll move to a different section, away from what I just did, to spread the heat out and to minimize warping as much as possible. Alright, so far here's our cart. It's ready to be welded up. The final weld. I've got things welded up here now in the corners. I got one little tack over there, another little bead right there. And that's replicated in all 4 corners here. So now we've got a nice strong thing here. That cart's pretty strong too. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna weld the undersides here as well. All right, I've got a cart up on the table here, and I've gone ahead yesterday and painted the top portion here. This is actually the bottom of the cart. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the wheels on here now, and then we'll flip it and put it on the ground and paint the rest of it. Alright, and the stuff I'm using to paint it is this Penetrol, which is not technically a paint, but it's a clear liquid that is supposed to be like a brush mark reducer, but you can actually use it fairly effectively as a clear coat. And you can kind of see the difference here, where I've got some that has run over from yesterday, and it sort of darkens it up and shines it up quite nicely. And then you can see the contrast with the stuff down there, how shiny that is, as opposed to how dull this is. So pretty nice. And then ultimately we're left with something looking like this, where you see the nice gray steel color, and then we've got our contrasting brazing. I'm gonna go ahead and put our final coat of paint on the top side here, and we'll be done. With our granite on here. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. Yeah, this is like a $3,000 table.
Oh, I'm ecstatic.
All right, so here it is in its final resting place, our granite kitchen cart. This is a great storage solution for us in this kitchen because we have very limited countertop space. We've got the little rolling butcher block underneath it as well. We do a lot of cooking and prep work around here, and so this will add quite a bit of extra counter space for us. And I'm quite happy with how it turned out. It looks nice, very refined. I like these edges and how all these lines turned out. This is very nice, I think, with this slight reveal on the top there above the actual metal. Very happy with this. It is very nice stone on here. There's little flecks of like purple and gold and whatnot in this thing, as well as like grays and sort of sparkling effects in there as well. It's a very nice stone on there. Looking forward to getting a lot of good use out of this thing, and it looks very nice. All right, so to cut the granite, I use a diamond cutting saw where it's got little diamond bits embedded on the very tip of the blade, and you can kind of see some of the remnants of that on this blade still. They don't last very long. In my experience, you get about one cut, maybe 4 feet of cut out of one blade, and that's about it. And then they kind of lose all their diamond aspects. That goes away, gets ground off. And 2 different brands so far I've tried. This is a DeWalt one and this is a Norton one. They're both about the same in my experience here. There's limited experience on this one project, and you want to get the ones that are specifically for granite, marble, etc., like this one here. And that is typically the ones that are, they also refer to them as a continuous rim one. You get really nice, smooth, clean cuts out of those for sure, but they just don't last very long, and they're expensive. This blade was $45, this one was like $40. So, and then after cutting the granite to size, I used some stone polishing pads and a buffer to sand down the cut sides of the granite. And I sanded it all the way to 6,000 grit on the sides, and then I used a sealer to seal the granite.